Welcome back, my friends. Today we got a very special episode for you. Vince Carey from Twin Double Logistics. And actually, is it? Yes, Triple Double Logistics. I did say that properly. Did I just say twin or triple? Anyway, here we go. We got Vince Carey. Vince and I connected a while back, and there was one big thing that really struck me about Vince before I bring Vince on, was the fact that his background is so unique to a lot of people in logistics. So I'm not going to spoil the excitement here. We're going to bring you back in. Welcome to Sales Chatter. Vince, how are you today, my man?
I'm good, man. Chilling. It's Friday. It's a beautiful day.
It
So,
looks beauty behind you. You know, it started out here
yeah.
pouring rain. I was at Truck World this morning, and
Oh, yeah.
then it turned just gorgeous. It was awesome, awesome. So, without further ado, give the audience a little bit of background on yourself.
Well, started trucking back in like 2019, working
Mhm.
for one of Enterprises doing that Dollar General account. I think I literally lost maybe 30 pounds in 3 months, like being right in Fulton, Missouri, um, unloading trailers all day. So I started with that. Then we eventually moved to JB Hunt, which provided me more home time, that type of stuff, be around my family.
Yep. Hmm.
Then right at 18 months, when I could do it, became a owner operator, and did that for like 2 or 3 years, and then like hopped into the logistics space. I had started my logistics company when I still had my trucking company,
Yep.
but then just like when my second child, she was born, wanted to be around more, that type of stuff. So
Yeah. So it went
so
from
hopped
on
in.
the road to off the road into logistics kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you know what I found interesting about your story was the fact that you started unloading trucks was the way you got into this. Because I've spoken to a lot of people that have been in logistics unloading trucks and they never made the switch over to brokerage. You know, because it was just like, I'm out of here, man. I'm not doing this all day. I'm gonna go find myself a desk
yeah,
job. And instead of staying
yeah.
in the industry, you decided to kind of work a couple of angles. So my big first question for you then is when you we're unloading trailers, seeing all types of different kinds of freight. How has that enabled or increased your odds when you're selling in logistics? Has it given you an edge that you find because you understand how freight is positioned in trailers to help you and your customers better maximize? Or give us some background on going through those phases in your career, how it's brought you to a better perspective today.
To be honest, like it mostly helps me more relating to truck drivers. And
Yes.
like working with them, because like I'm not the like traditional like freight broker. Like I kind of have like my own practices that I kind of do. And I more so just like sell the like relationships that I have with carriers, because like I've been through what they've been through. A
Mm,
lot of logistics professionals can't really relate to that because um they just like haven't been in that arena before. So that's probably my like biggest selling point. Is like the relationship that I have with like our carriers that like we partner with, we work with. That's like what I put most of my time, my resources into, because you can like be a great salesman, but when rubber meets the road, you got to be able to perform on like that promise you gave like those people.
yes.
And
Yeah.
like I feel like that's like why logistics gets like such a bad rep, because like everybody tells you, everybody like right on YouTube is like, hey man, cold call, sell, do this, like cold email campaigns, like all of this stuff, but like nobody really tells you like that like truck drivers are like the most important part of your operation, because We don't own
100%.
assets.
Hmm.
So, so if we don't have somebody that we have good relationships with, then what are we doing? So I feel like
Mm.
that's what like has like helped me most in terms of that, like is the like relatability that I have with trucking companies to be able
So
to.
can you give us a rundown? Because I agree 1000% with you. Like pre-load link and all of these things, I had literally a diary, and it was I had the ABC A to Z tabs on the side, and every one
Yeah,
was an origin state that I had specific carriers in, and it was literally start from the top of the state and go down every time a load came in. So I kept talking to the same people over and over and over,
yeah,
and that was the way I built a lot of the relationships. I'd love to learn from
right,
you how you go about building the relationships with your suppliers. Because I'll tell you, Vince, I could not agree with you more. Like, as a broker, all we have is the credibility from the person we hire, right? So
right,
we can talk to, we're blue in the face, and we can convince the customer we're the best thing since sliced bread. And then we hire
yeah,
somebody who doesn't have that same perspective of what value is, what
right,
service is, what overall goal attainment, and it just blows up. Like, we were just talking about it today with a couple of the guys at the show. Um, and they were all saying, it's always that when you don't have a trusted supplier in the mix for that customer, things tend to go wrong. Now, I mean, granted, we all have to start somewhere, so we have to start the
yeah,
relationship somewhere. But what I'd love to hear from you is, because when you said, the majority of your time is spent on that, rather than selling, to me that's a huge, like, positive flag, not a red flag, a positive flag for people to start
mhm.
grasping. So can you share kind of what that series is from beginning till end when it comes to your supplier, your partner relationships?
So like supplier, like how do we get customers or
No, 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 your
the
supply, I call
the
suppliers
relation?
carriers. Yeah, I call
Oh
suppliers
yeah,
my
yeah.
carriers, because they're
Um,
really,
so
without them we don't have anything.
right, so so it really starts like with like all different types of things. We use e-carrier check a lot, so like even just calling carriers, and just like even if it's a real conversation, just like just being vulnerable with people and like having those conversations. We've been at truck stops, like carriers that have like hauled our loads. We've like went out and grabbed drinks with them, like once like they dropped, because like most of our customers are in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So just like doing stuff like that, like might like pull up like right at their their yard or whatever, bring donuts, bring beer, whatever. So just like ways to show them that like their value, and just not always ask for favors. Like something my mom
Mm.
like she always instilled in me is like, man, if you have like the opportunity to like give or to take, like you always choose to give. So like that always sticks with me, like when I just like do business and like things like that, because what people don't get like is once like you develop good like relationships with good carriers, like logistics is simple, because like there's been loads that might take me 6 seconds per week like to like move, because the carrier that I have is like so elite, and like it like you just can't um shortcut that like relationship building with them, because it just doesn't work. Like you can try and find a new carrier, a new like person right on load boards and DAT and stuff, but like that's just not no real way to go about things. It's not like gonna get you far. And like I'm still like super far away from like where I feel like my like potential is at, but I kind of feel like that's where um I want to be at, and that's what I focus on. So
I love that perspective. I love that perspective. And, you know, years ago, I looked at this whole idea, and it was mainly when I was in the automotive sector, like the OEM sector,
Yeah.
where it was like you needed top of the line guy, like just, individuals and companies alike that really believe in the hierarchy of service, right? Especially if you need updates every 2 hours. The last thing you want is drivers that are pissed off to answer their phone, and instead they decide not. There's all these
Yeah.
variables, right? Um, and the one thing I learned, which sounds like exactly what you do, maybe even subconsciously, is I kind of transitioned something in my world that I call REL, which is reverse engineered logistics. And what it is
Mhm.
is I often share this with people. Go to your top 5 to 10 suppliers and say to yourself, where do you want new business? If you were to grow your company, where would you want to grow your company? What type of clients
Uh-huh.
would you want? How would you want to do it? And then you actually create your sales triangles around where they want to grow. Because,
Right.
like what you just said, and for everybody watching and listening to this, yeah, you have to pay attention to this because this is critical. Your life becomes so much easier when you have the suppliers in the mix in those areas. So, right, Vince, when you're selling in the areas your carriers go, you already know the rates, you know the volumes, you have faith in what you can deliver to the customer, and what you
Yeah.
say actually happens. Like I bet you've been there. I've been to the point where I've been on the phone with prospects and I've said, well, I've got trucks there 4 days a week. And they're like, well, everybody says they have trucks there. I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll have my drivers knock on your door all week this week and all week next week. If I can knock on your door 4 days a week at the time I say, would you be willing to give me business? And normally they say, sure, go for it. And all I do is I talk to
Right.
the carrier and I say, listen, I'll give you $50 if your driver just goes by and knocks on the door. So I'm giving them a little compensation for their time. It's not killing
Right.
my wallet, you know. So in the end, I've spent $200 or $400 and I got a
Yeah.
customer out of it. But
Yeah.
that driver also, and here's the beautiful thing is I've done it a couple of times, and those drivers went and got coffee and just brought like just 4 Dunkin' Donuts coffees with cream and sugar on the side and just said, here, Dan asked me to come by. Not really, because that relationship was there from other customers, right? So they understand,
Yeah.
and things like you're doing, like going to the truck stop and saying, hey, listen, let's grab a coffee. Hey, let me pay for your lunch. Let me do this. You just dropped my load. This is who I am. I mean, I think
Yeah.
so many people miss that point because it must go so far for you. Like, tell us, because of this approach, do you can you estimate or even guesstimate time savings, money savings, headache savings, stress savings, which probably amounts to way more than any kind of money you can make? Like,
Yeah.
do you have any kind of data that you've collected, or any kind of even perspective that you've collected on what it saves you on your daily to dos?
Like that's like what I got to get better at. Like is like
Mm-hmm.
keeping track of data, but like I've just been like in situations um where I didn't have these like companies that I had like, and things were
Mm-hmm.
just way way more difficult. Lost sleep, like everything.
Yeah.
Like I remember right in October, I was at the manufacturing first conference, and I was kind of like living right off of load boards because I had a new customer that I was dealing with, and like there ain't no feeling like living right off of the low boards, not knowing like if something's gonna get moved. So that that really showed me like we gotta do better. We gotta figure something out. We gotta like make everything come full circle. So stress, that's probably the biggest piece. And money savings, I I personally haven't like really kept track of it, but but yeah, I probably just say like stress and just that peace of mind knowing that you
Mm-hmm.
can deliver on what you say. And because like you said, reputation is everything. Once like your
Yeah.
reputation messed up, right in logistics, you have nothing else to offer. It's really just you're done.
Yeah, yeah, and
So
you're backtracking a lot when your reputation goes to crap, right? And
yeah.
it's interesting because you said something there which sparked that question, obviously, which is really interesting. So this whole dedication, dealing with the same people. Um, I see it as, okay, you can go to the load board and you can spend half an hour booking a truck, or you can go to your normal
Yeah.
people and spend 6 seconds booking a truck. So if you do
Right.
that just 4 times a day, it's 2 hours a day savings.
Yeah.
You take that 2 hours, you take that at 10 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, you're talking over 3 months of time savings of 44-hour weeks. Like that to me is
Most
just,
definitely.
I mean, you start adding those numbers up and you
Yeah.
realize, not only, okay, so that's one factor. Then you add the priceless factor in, which is reduced
Yeah.
stress. The priceless factor in, which is, I also look at it from this perspective, and I'm sure you have this perspective, and it might not just be verbalized. You're helping the other companies create a better company as well, because
Yeah.
you're giving them consistent business. You're allowing them to employ drivers who then feed their families with that. Like there's a whole big line that it goes down when we're talking about,
Yeah.
just the overarching strategy of using the same suppliers and really becoming true partners, right? So during COVID,
Yeah.
I can imagine that your cost didn't go up the way the spot market cost did because you're in it for the long run, right? And then right
Right.
now, as things are difficult and customers are coming to you, there's conversations through reduced rates. There's conversations through maybe volumes being lower, but they know the
Yeah.
relationship is there. One of the biggest things
Yeah.
that I saw with salespeople, and you've probably seen it as well, is during COVID, a lot of salespeople started to go to carriers and say, I want to build a relationship with you. And they're like, well, of course you do now because, there's no capacity in the market. But
Right.
I believe in the industry, now is the time to build relationships. Now is the time to go to those carriers and say, what's your top lane? What's the lanes you want? How do you want? And you try and build that out because, yes, of course, when, just same thing, like the market's up and
Yeah.
there's a lot of load broker freight and carriers go to load brokers and say, I want to build a relationship, they're going to have the same thoughts, right? It's unfortunate, but it's reality.
Yeah. And what really, I was kind of forced into certain situations because anybody that knows um about being a new broker, like credit is the biggest thing. And the industry really
Yes.
doesn't want small brokerages, so they make it difficult. Like they're like, you gotta um move like the same load, or like the load with the same company for 4 months, that factors with the same company 4 months straight, two different companies. Then like we'll give you a Ansonia grade, but you gotta like find a factoring company that will actually use you, and
Mm-hmm.
a load that runs that frequently. And like as a new broker, it's already hard to even acquire customers, and like you're hesitant to
Yeah.
acquire them because you're like, we can't even put these lows on the load board because 8 out of 10 people that call can't take it anyway because their factoring company won't approve it. So that's really
Mm.
why I feel like relationships was like even bigger for me, because it's like, man, people just gotta trust my word. Then I kind of went to
Yeah.
the companies that I had, and just got 15-day payment terms instead of 30-day payment terms, because like like, hey, like I ain't tell them that, but I was just like, hey, like, can we do 15-day payment terms? Because that'll help the driver, because like they know like they money coming in and this and that, like, and they 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 accepted it. So I feel like all different things, like it's, yeah, it kind of just means a lot. So
Yeah. And I see that. I mean, I see the factor that, especially now with how many companies are leaving money on the street, credit's getting tighter and tighter, right? I mean,
man, what?
I,
It's
oh
crazy.
yeah, I was talking about it today with somebody where they were asking about a company and they're like, "Oh, this new company just popped up and I'm thinking of going there." And I said, "Okay, well, talk to me about it. Let's talk through it." And in the end, he started talking to people and he realized they're having trouble getting carriers on board because
Hmm.
you got to think customers. payment terms are 30 days, you start running 50, 60, 80, 100 loads a week, that some of them you have to pay COD because they don't know who you are, just to establish credit, and that's the
right,
thing that comes when you're dealing in the spot market, or you're dealing with
yeah,
carriers that you don't necessarily have a long-term relationship with. I remember
right,
when I left the industry back, gosh, 2009 and 10. My relationships with my carriers was everything. So when I was in transition from closing my company to finding a new company, I had customers that still wanted to ship freight with me. And I was able to just take my numbered company and say, hey, would you mind if I ran it through my numbered company for a bit and build you? And the customers said, fine. And the carriers were like, yeah, no problem. It's you, Dan. We'll do it. So like that
yeah,
type of a relationship allowed me to not stop the relationship with my customers, because like in the end, right, Vince, let's call a spade a spade. You made a move to a new company. The customers you deal
hmm,
with, their freight still has to move. So if you can't move it at their
right,
company, they will have to find somebody to move it. They can't go to their boss and say,
yeah,
oh, Vince just needs 2 weeks to set up to get more cash flow so he could pay it. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't work like that, right? Like, they have a mandate and you fulfill that
They don't
mandate
care.
when you're working. Exactly. And so like we as
Right,
brokers, we need to step up to the plate and say, how are we going to navigate this to help our customers still win while we're in this transition period? And relationships, collaboration are the two words that you
yeah,
can use for that.
yeah, and like it, yeah, because times times are just weird, and that's my thing too. Is like I understand though because so much scamming goes on, so much, so you gotta be overly cautious. Then I like also think back to when I was a truck driver and like how many good freight brokerages I might have missed out on because TBS factoring wouldn't approve them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you don't think about it like that when you're in it. You're just like, man, like I need this money now. If like I can't get paid now, then what's going on? Like, so yeah, you roll with the punches, bro. And the only thing you can really
And sometimes those punches hurt, like
control is
Tyson in
that
his prime, my man. You know what I'm saying?
what I'm in the 10th round right now. Hey, I'm in the 10th round, barely breathing, but nah, but
Now,
yeah,
are you a Conor McGregor 10 round, or are you an old school Tyson 10
nah.
round, my man?
Hey, me old school Tyson, man.
That a boy,
McGregor
that's the way to do it, man.
televised.
Yeah,
Hey, yeah, yeah, he
that's
too
the way to do it.
televised.
Okay. So I got one last question for you, because I know you got a busy schedule going on. You got lots happening, and I want to make sure we add huge value. If you were to
Yeah.
give somebody three suggestions to really sit down and speak with a carrier, what are the three suggestions that you give to anyone that says, hey, listen, how do I start the conversation about building a relationship in a market like today?
Um, I say be genuine. Um, like be vulnerable because like people respect that. Just like sales, like I feel like all of the bad salespeople are like, hey, ask these questions and like do this and do that. But like in reality, people are people, and that's like what you got to meet. Like that's like where you got to meet people at, and just like be genuine, be pure, and um, and like find out like what they got going on. Like don't always be so fast to ask a favor or like you might not have a load right now, but like call and check on somebody and like
Oh,
see how they doing.
that's
So
awesome advice. Wow. Because we get so caught up in our day to day, right? Like it's like, well, I have a
yeah,
load now, so I'll call you, instead of just maybe, instead of maybe doing, oh, so here's the thought that you just gave me, because I absolutely love that. What about putting your carriers on follow ups as opposed to just prospects? Just
yeah,
out of the blue. Hey, man, I know we haven't done a load in a week or so, but I wanted to reach out and see how you're doing.
yeah.
That's a
Nah,
great idea.
man, goes far and like telling you like even something simple, bro. Like just like grabbing drinks with people. Man, bringing donuts, like that type of stuff. It just show people you care. Like it shows you not the average broker. There's a reason that like brokers get a bad rep out here. and that's because like people really like they only look at customers as like the valuable people, and
Mm-hmm.
and like I never really understood, like never, like I hated brokers. Like when I was a truck driver, and I had just stopped right in 2022. It's 2024, so I ain't that far removed. I hated brokers. Like man, if
Can I
I
ask
told
you,
you,
Vince, why you what was the main reasons why?
because brokers like brokers, a lot of them like kind of treat you like shit. Like I'm like you find a
Mm-hmm.
couple of them that like look out. But with that being said, um, how do I put this? I was also a like super elite like person to have on your team. Like I was by the time like they had called me like, "Hey Vince, where you at?" That low like was already dropped. Like I was always way ahead. So
Mm-hmm.
so I added plenty value to like what they were doing, but like you had a lot of brokers that just did some messed up stuff. Like I had times um where I travel 100 miles and then like they be like, well, like that load, it's not there. Like I had one time um where a broker sent me to a location, like I waited there like 6 hours, and like he went ghost, like couldn't like call him nothing, and um I ended up leaving, and like dude was like, yeah, like we're gonna like report you this and that. Like man, I did some like stuff like that. I was just like, man, I like shouldn't have like did that. But just like people just treat you just not great. And that's like why I kind of got into this like industry and wanted to fully be different. Did not want to be like the people that I saw. Lack of communication, um, disrespect, not customer service on both sides. So customer and carrier. Um, so I just like wanted to like build something different, and
I
because
love
I
that.
saw the opposite side of it, like where
Mm-hmm.
there was people that like didn't understand what you like were going through. Like your kids are sick or your wife is sick, and the only thing they care about is like why are you not there on time? You 5 minutes
Mm-hmm.
late, but it's like I had all this stuff like going on right at home, and like you just care about how I'm gonna make you money.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that.
just
I love, a lot
didn't.
of great businesses and uber successful people have come out of fear of scarcity and anger, and they've seen the way they get treated for one aspect of it, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to create something that's going to alleviate or not treat people in that way. Do you know what I mean? So I love that,
Right.
and I think that's a big piece of the fire equation for you to keep going in the face of adversity, right? Keep going. Like you
Yeah.
said, I'm in the 10th round right now. And, you still got your feet under your knees, aren't wobbling, and you're standing tall and you're standing strong, man. And I think
Right.
that's, I honor you for that, because especially, in the market we're in, you're talking 2 years in. So yeah, you came off of a good year right into one of the worst years. And you probably know that because getting into the industry in 2019 was a really bad year after the 2018 ELD blip, right? So you
Right.
came in a time where people were struggling, and
Right.
this last year and a half, I truly believe, Vince, is separating the boys from the men, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
No offense to the massive female population in the industry, but it's really separating. Well, move it a different way. Let's separating the pros from the amateurs, right? And
Right.
the scammers from the true grit individuals that are
Right.
here for the long run to really help their customers achieve more. And I love your
Yeah.
approach, my friend. I know you never will, but I'll say it anyways. Don't ever quit that approach. I think your approach is the number one approach, because in the end, like anything, right? You get more done with less. Everybody else prospers. If you had to have twice the staff you'd have to pay more attention to margins. If you can run twice the freight with half the staff, everybody's more profitable and you can give back. And like our good friend Dean Crook says, always leave something on the table for the other guy. And it sounds like you're doing that, my man.
Right. Yeah, just like not being greedy. Like I feel
Mm,
like there's like so much money out here. Like logistics is so lucrative, but
yeah,
people, they're greedy, and
yeah.
and like it's like how much can I get? Like instead of having I like a good margin, good like situation, not being greedy, making sure the truck driver situated, and but like that's like not enough. People want more, and
Driver first approach, it sounds like you got.